Hey, this is DHG doing my review for this little game right here. Red Dead Revolver that started off one of the most popular franchises that we see today. To be completely honest, I was very trepidatious about starting this game just because this is an old Rockstar game from 2004. For any of the younger people on here that don't remember those days for Rockstar, they were very experimental. They weren't really known for the level of nuance and quality control that they're known for nowadays. I suppose you could say that's because they released less, they got more quality control. I mean, hell, during the entire PlayStation 4 generation, they put out one game, Red Dead 2. But back in those days, you had three Grand Theft Auto games that came out on the PS2. You had Red Dead, you had Midnight Club, Manhunt, Manhunt 2, Smuggler's Run, a couple other different Midnight Club games. The Warriors and Bully. So they released a lot of stuff. I mean, they were just bombing content back in those days. And since they were putting out so much, they didn't really have that much quality control, so the controls were very bad. And they were very buggy games, especially Grand Theft Auto. That didn't stop them from becoming the legendary powerhouses they are now. So that was one of the biggest things I was concerned about getting into this game. What was the targeting going to be like? How's the gunplay? How's it controlled? Because trying to go back and play San Andreas nowadays, or Manhunt for that matter, I'd rather beat my head against a wall. This turned out to be pretty good. But I'm going to start with the first things first. Same 8 things I always get into. Graphics. This was a bit of a mixed bag, as a lot of the games that they released back then were. Some of the character models look good. The environments look pretty impressive overall, but every now and then you see like a texture, like the gun textures, or they just looked horrible. They look like PlayStation 1 era stuff. But overall it was good. I thought the lighting in some areas was particularly impressive, but it does the Western game genre and shooters pretty good service here. You're not going to find a lot of complaints about the graphics in this. I couldn't find what game engine they were using though. That just bugged me repeatedly. Explosions look great, as you can see. And I understand that this game was remastered. Yeah, I think they just upped the resolution, kept all the original textures, and put it out on PS4 and Xbox One. I was unaware that they did that though. I still like playing the original anyway, just because reasons. Controls. I was surprised here because this, like I said, this was where I was nervous. I thought this was going to be some sort of a strange auto-targeting system with just really loose, horrible controls, or something like Grand Theft Auto where you have to directly face the enemy head-on or you can't target them, crap like that. But no, this played like a much more modern third-person shooter. It plays not too dissimilar from the 2 new Red Deads that are out. So the controls were very good. Gameplay. The gameplay set up into small little segments here. Like, this is the one town you wander around in at first. I don't remember its name. I don't really spend any time here. Okay, it's not in this video. But here's pretty much the gameplay. Start off as any number of different characters. I think there in this you had the female, you had Red, who you play as most of the time, some Englishmen, and a Native American. Yeah, I think it's just those 4 characters. But you go through a town, you usually shoot some stuff up. This one was interesting. There's a lot of boss fights in this game. Here was one of the bosses. He carried a giant coffin on his back, which had a Gatling gun in it, interestingly enough. And during my playthrough, I mistakenly said John Moses Gatling created the gun. No, he did not. The name was John Moses Browning, and he was a legendary gunmaker, but I can't remember the real guy's name. Richard Gatling, I think it was, from North Carolina. He created the Gatling gun, so I'm clearing that up. in case I get called out on that. But here was another character you play as. I don't remember her name, but she basically had some property within the town here, a very corrupt town, and she has to defend her farmstead, not too far away from what you do in the modern Red Deads. But there's a lot of strange things in these games that just made me laugh. Like, these animals. You're supposed to let them out of the barn before the barn goes up in flames. Let's see if I can capture some of this. Yeah. But they keep freaking running me over. Every time I'd let one out, I would get out of the way so they'd run out, but then they'd turn around and specifically targeted me. I just thought it was kind of funny. And there was another level here where I just kept running into the same... You had to do like a small platforming section, and I was just getting murdered. Oh yeah, it was this one. Yeah, you see you do some platforming and... Oh, yeah. Got screwed up. Oh shit. There we go. I thought, I thought it was kind of funny playing through this part. But, yeah, the controls are pretty good overall. They're very responsive. Not like some of the other games that I played through where you press a button and it's more like a suggestion rather than a command. But the game was very good in terms of controls. And I was on gameplay, so I digress about that. The gameplay is typically a straightforward shooter. I don't think you do any escort missions or anything stupid like that. You do a lot of boss fights in the game. Some of the boss fights are just straight up weird. Like, I'll show you the one dude. I think his name was Piggy or some shit like that. Oh, here it was. This dude. He's like some sort of a circus freak that's got TNT wrapped around himself, and he just blows you up. You end up having to flank him and shoot him in the back. Kind of stuns him. I died quite a few times fighting this guy. But you do your normal shooter stuff. You fight a boss, then you might be shooting stuff in a train for a while there. You play as a Native American, you shoot people with bows and arrows. It's pretty cool. They switch it up enough to keep it interesting. But they also have duels in the game. And duels is something that was in another game I covered called Call of Juarez. This isn't as nuanced as their duels are, but they're still a lot of fun. And this came first, way before Call of Juarez, so that might have been where they got the whole duel idea from. I don't know where that originally started, as long as I've been gaming. The gameplay is good. The sound, kind of strange. You have some really weird music sounds, which is kind of typical for Rockstar if you've ever played their games, which most of you have. It is Rockstar after all. The music ranges from very good to very bizarre. But the explosions, gunshots, and whatnot, the dialogue, there's no real bad voice acting. It was all pretty good. The story, as far as I can tell, it was a typical revenge story. Red was after some dudes that did his family wrong, and you end up getting revenge in the end, but you help some people along the way. They didn't really go that far into detail with the story, which I can appreciate because these games are mostly based about the gameplay and how you interact with the game and the environment, not what kind of story they present. It's not an RPG. Stability and bugs. I encountered maybe one or two bugs playing through. I don't remember exactly what they were, though. But the stability was good. I didn't have any crashes. I mean, I didn't have to shut off my Xbox and turn it back on. So it's pretty good in that department. Opinions. I thought it was a fairly good game. I would say if I had to score it overall, I put it average. Just because it doesn't really do anything heads and shoulders above anything else that was out at that time. But it also wasn't a piss poor game. You could have a lot of fun playing through it, but it didn't really do anything spectacular. So if you're interested in where the Red Dead series started out at, and you wanted to play this, like I said, it's available on PlayStation Store, I believe. It came out sometime a couple of years ago, slipped under my radar. And it's also unavailable on Xbox. You can either get the disc like I did. I played it on the OG Xbox just because I like playing the original versions. But you could also play it on any of the newer consoles since Xbox is backwards compatible. Something Sony should do. But that's it. That's my review of Red Dead Revolver. Average.